Alright, so welcome back to this is the final video before we head over to the CNC machine to get these cut out. So I'm going to go over how to set up our material that we're going to cut this out of, how to run our tool paths. We've got two different tool paths we need to run, and then how to go ahead and create our NC code. That is what the CNC machine will read to move and make these cutouts. So let's get started. I've got my design here. What I need to do is I need to go from our design um, workspace to our manufacture workspace. So up here, you're going to click on where it says design. You're going to go down to manufacture. You're going to see it tells you to generate tool paths. All right. So first thing that we need to do, I'm going to close some of these down. I don't need to have everything open. First thing that I need to do is I need to go ahead and set up the material that we're going to be cutting this out of. So I'm going to go up here to set up, and it's this little folder that's open. I'm going to click on that. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us this pop-up. So from here, there's a few things I need to do. The machine, I don't need to worry about. I do not need to set the machine. Sometimes you want to do that. For us, we don't need to worry about that. Our setup, the operation that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some milling. Orientation is we just need to make sure that our y-axis is up and our x-axis is going this way here. All right. If that does not show up, there'll be another video on how you can fix that. But if you did everything correctly and you drew in the correct spaces, those will show up there. So now I just need to click here for stock point, and I want to select the front right corner, which is right here, and that's going to be our 0, 0, 0. All right, and again, I zoomed in, just made it a little bit easier to set that because everything is based off of that. We're going to select our model. All right, what I found is the easiest thing to do is just click on that select button and just come up here and just click on your overall model component that has your name. So next I want to set up our stock. We're going to be using set stock sizes. So we're going to click on where it says mode, and we're going to click fixed size box. Our width is going to be 7.25. All right. Our depth is going to be 7.25. And our height, so our x, which is our width, all right, our depth, which is considered our height, which is our y, all right, and then our height, which is our z, is our thickness. All right, so I'm going to set that to the thickness of our plywood, which is 0.485. Okay, and our model should be in the center on all of these. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. All right, and you can see everything's laid out. If I go to isometric mode, you can see we've got our material, we've got our model, we've got our X, Y, and then there's our Z. All right, everything looks perfect. All right, so next, I've got our setup done. So now what I want to do is create our tool paths. Okay, so now that I have my setup done, I'm going to get started with my tool paths. We're going to have two types of tool paths. We're going to have an engraving tool path for our lettering, and then a contour for cutting out our outside, or cutting out the overall shape of our pieces. So we're going to start with our engraving tool path for our letters. Under our tool paths, which are all listed up here, we're only focusing on two-dimensional tool paths. So click on the little drop down where it says 2D, and we're going to go down to engrave and select that. That's going to give us our engrave toolpath pop-up. Engraving toolpaths are pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead first, select our tool. Whenever creating tool paths, we always select our tool first. We're going to click on the wood cutting option here, and we're going to be selecting tool number 10, which is our 1/2 inch 45 degree or a 1/2 inch 90 degree V-bit. So we click on that, we go ahead, we hit select. All right, all of our feeds and speeds are ready to go. Next, we want to go ahead and select our geometry. So we're just going to click on our letters. All right, and then all of our other settings are preset based on the bit that we pick. So we don't have to make any of those changes in any of these other tabs. And we're just going to go ahead and click OK. So once we click that OK, it takes a minute to run our toolpaths. We should have a check mark over here. If you do not have a check mark, then something was done incorrectly. So go back through and double check that. So I always like to view this or simulate it so we could see what that's going to look like. We'll open that up. In our simulate pop-up, I always like to have my stock turned on. You can have your tool paths on or off. That's up to you. I like to keep my tool turned off. And then our viewpoint, I always like to view the model. And then just go ahead and click that play button, and it will go ahead and show you what those tool paths will look like when they're cut. So we can exit our simulation here. So next we're going to go ahead and lay out our contour cuts to cut out our actual shapes. So we're going to go back up here to our tool paths. Mine is in the toolbar ribbon, 2D contour. If it's not there, just click on that drop down and go down to 2D contour and select that. So just like we did for our letters, first thing we do is select our tool. That will pull up our tool menu. Click on wood cutting and select tool number 1, which is our 1/8 inch flat end mill, and we click select. Okay, so our tool is set, our speeds and feeds are set. We click on our geometry. So for this, I like to select it in a specific order because I like to make sure that I cut out this opening first. So I'm going to add select. I want to click on this line here. All right, I'm going to click on this line up here. All right, so what it's going to do is we're going to actually make a setting so that it cuts everything out in order. And then once we have those two lines selected, we're actually just going to click on the face of our back. Make sure you're not inside your text window that you drew. So I'm going to click down here. So that's going to select that face. So once we have everything selected, we're going to set our heights. So for our heights, our clearance height should be preset and should be fine. Just double check it to make sure it matches what's here. Our retract height, same thing. Feed height should be set. Just double check and make sure that this matches. Our top height. For our bottom height, we're going to go ahead and click on the little drop down here, and we're going to select stock bottom. And we are going to change our offset, and we're going to change that to -0.01. Okay, that will give us just that little bit of extra clearance that we need to make sure we cut entirely through our material. So once that's set, we're going to go ahead and click on passes. So for our passes here, the only thing we're going to check off is preserve order. So we're going to go ahead and check that off. All right. We are going to cut this in multiple depths. All right. So we're going to change our maximum roughing to 0.15. All right. We are going to check off use even step downs. Right? Everything else here is fine. Then we're going to go to linking. So again, we went from our last tab here. And we want to make sure, so our first drop down for linking, we don't need to change anything there. All right, our leads and transition, we want to make sure we do not have a lead in and we do not have a lead out. Okay, so that's our linking. The last thing I want to set up, and I'm going to go back to our geometry tab, all right, is since we're going to be cutting all the way through, these parts are going to be just floating. And what's going to happen is that router bit can catch and can actually break the bit because our work's going to move. So we need to add some tabs to keep everything together. I'm going to close this geometry at the top. So I've checked off for tabs. Rectangular tab is perfectly fine. All right, our tab width at 1/8 of an inch, it's all we need. We don't need a giant tab. Our tab height, we are going to make this a little bit thicker, also at 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. All right, our tab position is going to be number of tabs, because you could see here it's added all of these tabs. We don't need this many tabs. So we're going to check off for number of tabs. Tab per contour, we're going to change that to 0 because we actually want to set these ourselves. And then manual tab, we're going to check that off. We're going to grab that select, and I'm going to add a tab right here. I'm going to add a tab at the top here. I'll add another one up at the top here. All right, I want to make sure that this inside circle doesn't get thrown as well, so I'm going to add 2 tabs to this. All right, I'm going to add a tab to the bottom of this. I'm also going to add a tab inside here, and you'll see why. I'm going to add these 2 tabs here, and then I'm going to add some tabs at the top as well. All right, so I'm also going to add just one more tab right here, and you'll see why once we run our toolpaths. So now that all of our tabs are set, again, I'll go through, double check that everything is correct. I go ahead and I click OK, and it's going to process our toolpaths. It's just going to take a minute. Should get that little check mark right here. All right. So again, that green check mark, all checks. I will go up to Actions, Simulate, and I'll simulate this toolpath as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll push that play. You can see it cut the inside circle out first. It's going around, it's cutting out our outside circle. And you could see why I added these tabs is I wanted to make sure that these pieces are going to be secured in here. So nothing's going to go flying out on us. So exit simulation. So now that I've got all my toolpaths, last thing I need to do is go ahead and post our NC code or our G code. So up here, I've got the little NC code file here, little piece of paper with the G on it. So a couple things I need to set up here. I like to first thing make sure that my operations are selected. So under settings, next to that it says operations, click on that tab. You can see right now it's only selecting that. It's going to cut out my contour. So I want to make sure that both my engrave and my contour are selected. Go back to my settings. I want to click my post processor. So my post processor, if I open up this window here, in my cloud, you're going to select that first one, Fanuc. Click select, and that should pop up right here. You are going to change your file name. So first initial, last name, class period. So I'm using P4, and then what this is. So this is our phone stand. All right. The output folder, yours is going to be grayed out. You won't have this option. Since I'm on a PC, I have this option, but on Chromebooks, you don't have that option for an output folder. You are going to post to your Fusion team. Make sure that this has your name here because that's making sure it's posting it in the correct folder. Everything here should be all set. And all you're going to do is click that post button. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and process it. You'll get a little pop-up that says it's successfully posted. You will get this here, and that's fine. We don't have to worry about that. So now that everything's posted, just go ahead and put a note in Schoology that it's posted, and we can pull that over to the machine.